All right. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
And welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And today we have joining us from Cape Cod, Lucy Kaplansky.
Hello there. What's that applause? I assume that that's not real.
Well, it is. We just, Tony just amplifies it,
Yes,
Okay,
that's
on
right.
the
That's right.
audio.
that's cool.
Those
But,
are all the people out there. I can hear Alan clapping out there.
Yep,
Our
from
friend Alan is
Texas.
here. Happy Friday. It's raining mojitos.
All right.
Well, good for
Sounds
you,
pretty
Alan.
good.
I like.
I want that weather. Connie, beautiful day in Richfield. Yeah, in the Twin Cities, beautiful sunny day, 70s, feeling pretty good. Hugh, enjoying the California sunshine. And good friend Matt Winters applauding from Urbana, Illinois. And yes, we're so excited because, no matter what else is going on in the world, and there's a lot, this is kind of the thing that anchors me every week. And Tony, I'm guessing you're in the same boat. And
Absolutely.
we got to
Gets me
enjoy
through
some
each week.
music. Yeah, exactly. But knowing that I get to connect with all of you and enjoy some music and reconnect with some of our favorite artists and talk with them about their older recordings is one of the highlights for sure. Lynn,
Hi, Lynn and Lynn. I know them. Hi, you
yes.
guys.
See,
And
this is what it's about.
yeah, it's about reconnecting and enjoying some music, and that's good for the soul. So we are excited to have you here. Let us know where you're tuned in from. If you're enjoying a beverage, it is Friday. I know in California it's a little earlier in the day, but it's been a week. No judgments. It's a holiday weekend. So I will say that I'm getting the weekend started with a fancier cocktail than normal. It might just look like water, but it's actually a peach. It's a peach infused gin and tonic. So that's
Whoa,
my
Whoa.
fancy day.
that sounds
Ellen.
Exactly.
fancy.
Wow.
It must be,
Wow.
So cheers.
yeah, spring.
Okay. I'm shamed. I'm just drinking water.
That's okay.
Oh,
You could have said you were drinking the same thing, and
I could have
I
said
would
this
have
was
looked
vodka. No
Yeah,
one would know.
just
exactly.
Oh,
No.
well.
straight,
I missed my
straight.
chance.
Oh, Tony, what are you
Well,
drinking?
it is warm and it is sunny, and that is the time I like to go back to Munich here for my Paulaner
Mm,
Hefeweizen. I love these wheat beers
nice.
in the warm weather.
Yes, wonderful. And let's see, we have yeah, Matt says peach infused G&T sounds lovely. We have Penny joining us from Northfield and Dennis from the Pioneer Valley. So many folks. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are new to the show, this is what we do. We connect with each other. We have a drink, and we talk with artists about their one of their older recordings. And so, and then we explore the songs, the songwriting, and we want you to ask questions and join in on the comments. So be a part of the
Cool.
party. And the album we're gonna revisit today is The Red Thread, which is one of my favorites. And I'm so glad you picked it, Lucy. Sometimes people ask, like, "Oh, do you guys pick the records?" And I say, "No, the artists get
Oh,
to pick whatever albums they want." So before we dig in, though, I would love it for folks who maybe aren't as familiar with your music, just to give the quick, I know you've had a long career, but a 2-minute bio of like, where you grew up, what got when you got into music, and maybe specifically where this record fits in.
okay. In 2 minutes.
We're
I grew
not
up in
going to time you. It's
Yeah, yeah.
fine.
Take your time.
I grew up in Chicago and in a musical family and started singing at school and my high school, like folk music. I wanted to be Joni Mitchell, and then I moved to New York to be a singer when I was 18, and that was 1978, and became part of this scene, this very sort of iconic folk club called Folk City, and met some amazing people, including Suzanne Vega and Sean Colvin there. Actually, Suzanne Vega and I met. We were both students at Barnard, but that's another story. But I brought her down there, and it was going really well. And then I kind of freaked out one day and decided I didn't want to be a singer. I was going to be a therapist, psychotherapist, and I quit and went back to school. And then several years later figured out that actually that was all a lie and I did want to be a singer,
Hmm.
and this was in my own therapy, and this is when I was already a psychologist, which is ironic, and went back to singing. And Sean Colvin and I had made an album together, just kind of for fun. And then I had an album that was produced by Sean Colvin, and that gave me a foot in the door. and I've been doing it ever since. And that's 1994 is when I really came back to music, and I've been doing it pretty much full time ever since. How's that?
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
pretty
Yeah.
good.
Oh, and where the red thread fits in.
And that was
I have no
2004,
idea.
right? So it's 10 years probably after.
Wait, 10 years.
Or right? 10 years after.
It came out. Oh, you mean 10 years after I went back?
Yeah.
Very good. Yes, it was
Great
9 years.
math.
It came very good. It was exactly 10 years after I went back. So it was my, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, fifth album. Is that right? I don't know. I'm
Either
confused.
way, you put out a bunch of albums in short succession, it seems, like
I
after
guess
doing the
so.
first one.
I guess so.
And they were
On
all
Red House Records.
Yeah, on Red House Records, which for folks who are new to the show, we've had, or folks who've been listening to the show for a while, Red House Records, we've had a lot of artists who from that label that have been guests on the show in the past, and certainly had a lot of great songwriters over the years on that label, and was
Great
your
label.
home for many
label.
years. Yeah, and Joni says saw Lucy at the Cedar Cultural Center in mid 90s. So yeah, that would have been around that time.
Whoa, it's a long time ago. Wow.
And for those who are unfamiliar, that is one of the places to see acoustic music here in Minneapolis.
Yeah, beautiful
Cedar
venue.
Cultural Center. Wonderful sound, beautiful.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can talk more about the red thread, but it ended up being kind of some of it about adopting our daughter and about 9/11. Those two things happened while I was kind of creating these songs and this album. And I just want to say that these songs, just as a preface, all of these songs are co-written with my husband, Rick Litvin. So I'll just say we, because it was always we, and he's a really gifted writer, and he taught me everything I know about writing. So that's good 2-minute
Yeah.
summary.
That's a great snapshot. And this album came out in 2004. So, and you, as you said, it kind of informed a lot by 9/11, and you live not far from Ground Zero. So,
Right.
so again, a very impactful time for you, and then adopting your daughter. So how many years do you think over the course were you writing these songs leading up to the recording of this record?
I guess so. The previous one came out in 2001, actually on 9/11. So over, it was kind of gradual. We are not prolific at all. So it was kind of, here was a song, and then a few months working on something else, and then there's a song. So it was kind of probably the whole time from 2001 to when the album was done. It was done in the fall of 2003.
Well, we are going to dig into it now. So this is my favorite part of the show, where we get to just listen to music together. And probably in my life, I don't get enough time, even though I have a very music-filled life, I don't get enough time to just sit and do nothing and listen to music. So
right, 1 hour a week at least, though. Now, right?
That's right.
Exactly. So the first track you picked to feature from the Red Thread is "This Is Home." Is there anything you want to say about it before we take a listen to it?
Well, should I talk before we listen or after?
Either way.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, huh. I'll try talking now. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. So, and there's some things probably I'm not going to divulge because they're too private, but this song got born when we were just beginning the process of adopting our daughter from China, and she's now 19. And we didn't know anything about her at all, except that we were going to adopt a baby girl from China, and we were going to name her Molly after my grandmother. Let's see. Part of one of the references in the song, so she was in an orphanage. We didn't know any of this at the time, but we assumed. And she was in an orphanage after she was born for 10 months. And we just assumed that we were not going to, and this is one of the lines in the song, we wouldn't hear her first word or see her first, what's the line? Hear her first word. My God, I can't remember the line. Oh, well, maybe we'll come back to
Well, we
this
can
after we
listen to
listen to
it,
the
and
song.
yeah, they'll come back.
Yes. Okay. So this was kind of a love song to the daughter. We hadn't met yet. And also a love song from me to Rick. And yeah, let's start with that.
Perfect.
That's great. And if more comes to you, we can discuss more later. We're kicking off this week's episode with This Is Home. This is Lucy Kaplansky here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
When I found you, I knew that you'd be mine. It wasn't my first kiss, it wasn't my first time. It was the first time I gave my heart when it wasn't just alone. I put it in your hands and I followed you home. Now I'm on the interstate, wishing I could sleep. I see you lying in our bed, you're waiting up for me. And while I'm taking in the view, I'm wishing I could give you what I wanted to. You know I wanted to. This is home, where I wanna be. This is home, let's make a family. Baby, you and me. Baby, you and me. She's lying on a bed in some crowded room, trying to sleep, not much else to do. The faces change around her, they speak to her sometimes. She's getting used to being left behind. When we find her, we'll belong to her. We won't see her first smile, we won't hear her first word, but ours will be the first heart she holds in her hand. She can keep on beside her in her very own room. This is home, where I wanna be. This is home, let's make a family. Baby, you and me. Baby, you and me.
Lucy Kaplansky here on the back catalog listening party with This Is Home from her 2004 release, The Red Thread, which we are revisiting today on the show with Lucy joining us from Cape Cod, where it looks like it's very sunny, maybe around sunset. Looks.
It was sunny. It's not sunny anymore.
Well, I love that song, and
Beautiful.
Thank you.
I am thinking, was that John Gorka on the
It
vocals
was.
on that?
Oh,
Yeah, one
nice,
of our
good ear.
past guests. Well, I knew it was. I was like, because it's a little hard to hear as much of the texture in his voice on that one. But I was like, I was thinking of the usual harmony singers on Lucy Kaplansky records. I was like Richard Shindell or John Gorka, and it wasn't Richard, so it was a guess. It was my
Good guess.
educated guess.
Gorgeous, gorgeous harmony.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful.
Well, of course, I remembered something about how the song got born.
Mhm.
Listening to it, I haven't listened to that in a long time. So a couple of things I want to say. So one of them is I remember now. It started out as a list of the firsts we would not get because Molly was going to be adopted. We were not going to know her until she was many months old. And I don't remember what those firsts were, but I think it was okay. So we won't see her first smile. We won't hear her first word, but I had literally a list, and it just goes to show you, like, you don't know what a song is going to become. I never do. It started out as that, and then it ended up going in a really different direction. But that thing about the first, so I took that and started talking about Rick was the first man I loved. I met him when I was 25. I just never felt that way. I felt like I was going to be an old maid before I met him because I just wasn't finding anyone the ripe old age of 25. And then I met him and he was my first love. So it started. So I started making it about other kinds of firsts. And then that thing about, we're going to miss these other firsts, but so it started out kind of very as this sort of sad, wistful list. And then it turned into this joyous one, which was, we will be the first. I can't even, it's hard to talk about. What's the line? Ours will be the first heart she holds in her hand. She can keep him beside her in her very own room. Let me tell you, when we got home from China, and I said to her, I carried her into her little room and I said, "This is your room." I mean, I couldn't even say it without crying. And I could not sing this song without crying for months. And now I'm sort of, I don't know, it sort of wears off after a while and you can get through something, but I could not get through this song without crying. And maybe audiences liked that. I don't know. But anyway, that's how really the song was born. And so it was sort of sad. And then it became this joyful thing. Let's make a family, baby, you and me.
That's so lovely. And I feel like that kind of encapsulates so much about, any kind of life being born or expanding a family is it's like sadness and joy all wrapped up together, and yeah.
And also
really.
how little you really know until it's there.
Well,
right,
that's
so
true.
You write the list and you have all this, and then you get there, and there's
Nothing like you thought.
nothing you could have ever done to prepare, really.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. Whether you adopt or give birth, you don't know who this person is going to be.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something else. Oh, so I just want to also say, and I've said this on stage many times, we actually did see her first smile and we did hear her first word.
Oh.
And there's a little bit of controversy in my house about what the first word was. Rick remembers it differently, but my memory is very strong. And the first word was mama.
Mm-hmm.
It
As
just
it should
was.
be. As it should
Yeah.
So after all that, we did get those firsts.
Oh,
And
that's so
she is a beautiful, happy, vibrant, hilarious, generous, kind person we couldn't be prouder of now. Our 19-year-old.
Hmm.
So from that list to that girl, kind of an amazing journey.
So I have to ask. Obviously, she's seen you perform. I saw that she was recently tour managing for you on a recent
Yes.
show. So I have to ask. Like, I'm sure she's heard these intros to these songs and knows some of these songs are about her, obviously, and that one more obviously than others, maybe. But how does she feel about it at her ripe old age of 19? Does she like it, or is she like, oh, mom?
She doesn't like to hear the songs about herself.
Yeah.
There's only one song I think she doesn't mind hearing about herself, and that's on a different album, and it's what's it called? Sixth Avenue. It's I don't know why she likes hearing it. I mean, first of all, she doesn't like hearing the ballads. From the time she was little, she used to want to listen to my albums all the time in the car when she was little. She would say, "Mommy music more." But she never wanted to hear the sad ones or the slow ones. So we would skip. So this one got skipped a lot. So she still probably doesn't want to hear it because she's a rocker.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want to hear little folky ballads.
That's what happens when it's like whatever your parents do, you're going to do something a little different. And
Yeah.
Oh my God,
I'm sure,
totally.
it'll become a favorite later.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see about that.
Well, we did have a question from Lynn who wanted to know, wanted you to elaborate how you and Rick collaborate on the lyrics. Like, do you take a first pass and then he kind of goes at it from there, or do you actually sit in a room together?
It's been a whole sort of continuum of ways. So in that case, I started writing that song myself and brought it to him. And he is an incredible, in addition to being an incredible writer, he's an incredible editor. And he just knows the right question, the right idea to put in at the right spot. I don't remember specifically with that song, but I can give you, when we go on to some of these other songs, I will give you some examples. So it ranges from me kind of presenting him with a lyric / song. It's also been, and I think I have on the list, I Had Something. Is that on there?
No.
Maybe not. No.
But it's another great song that's on the record. And if you all buy the record, which you should, you can get it there.
Thank you. There are other times when he has brought lyrics to me, and then we sit in a room together and finish it, and then kind of everything in between. So it's been all kinds of ways. But he trusts my judgment. I trust his judgment, and it's been very fruitful. Who knew?
Yeah, that's also lucky. I mean, because probably when you fell in love with him, you didn't know that he'd also be such a great collaborator musically.
Did not know that.
Jackpot.
No.
Yeah.
And by the way, for anyone out there who doesn't know, his name is Rick. So we're actually Lucy and Ricky. And it was literally, I got to tell you, it was 2 years before we realized that. In fact, I think somebody even pointed it out to us, and we were like, whoa.
Wow.
I don't know why we didn't think of it, but anyway.
Oh, that's great.
That's perfect.
Well, if you just joined us, as Gary just did, hi, Gary, coming in late, but happy to be here. We're talking with Lucy Kaplansky about her 2004 release, The Red Thread. And I want to dive into more music because we have a bunch of songs we want to get through before the end of today's show. So this next track we're going to listen to is the title track, The Red Thread. And this is sort of, this is a thread that's kind of connected a little bit, I think, more to this last song that we heard.
Yeah, maybe this time I'll wait and listen to it. Mm-hmm. I definitely have some things to say about how this song got written, but maybe it'll be more meaningful to people after they hear it.
Sounds good.
Perfect. All right, this is Lucy Kaplansky, The Red Thread, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I was only a girl when I went out on my own. You wrapped me up warm and you just let me go. Now I live at the far end of this long distance line, and I'm just another one who's gone left you behind. Wish we could look at your pictures, all the places you've been. You don't think you will. but you can see them again, 'cause you can see them through me. The brown eyes I got from you. Oh, but now I wish I could give them back to you. This much I can say, this much I can do. When your heart is empty, I'll try to fill it for you. 'Cause I'm the girl who learned to love from watching you. I wish that I could tell you it'll all be alright, but you never did believe it through the trials of your life. And you and I both know it just isn't true. When so much you love has been taken from you. And I remember when you told me we ran out of time, how happy you were just to know she'll be mine. When I wrap her up warm, you'll be right next to me. 'Cause they say the red thread that ties me to you ties her to me. This much I can say, this much I can do. When your heart is empty, I'll try to fill it for you. 'Cause I'm the girl who learned to love from watching you. This much I can do. When your heart is empty, I'll try to fill it for you. This much I can say, this much I can do. When your heart is empty, I'll try to fill it for you. 'Cause I'm the girl who learned to love from watching you. Watching you. Watching you.
Lucy Kaplansky with The Red Thread, the title track to her album that came out in 2004, which we are revisiting today on the Back Catalog Listening Party with Lucy herself joining us from Cape Cod. And yeah, another song that seems to have family in it as well.
Yes. So I actually pulled up the lyrics for myself because I want to be able to address a few things. So can I just say also, listening back to this album, it was the most incredible band. And the just gorgeous playing of these guys. It was, Duke Levine and John Harrington playing different guitars, two of the world's great guitar players, and Zev Katz on bass, and Ben Whitman on drums and percussion, and just unbelievable. Like I'm so lucky that I have gotten to work with these guys. Anyway, so this also was written when we first started the adoption process, and I was visiting my parents, who were very old at the time. They were in California, and they were so old and frail that I knew that they just weren't ever going to be able to travel anymore. And I didn't know if they'd ever get to meet their granddaughter. And I was on a plane coming home. And okay, so let me just back up for a second. My mother, and I didn't talk about this at the time because it was private, but my mother had had a stroke, and her vision was really, really messed up from the stroke. So in addition to them being old and frail. So I was on the plane coming home, unbelievably sad that they were basically maybe never going to meet her or hardly ever get to spend any time with her. And I started writing this, and that line, Well, it's very autobiographical. I was only a girl when I went on my own. I went out on my own when I was 18. Uh, and my mother's father left, died when she was 9, and that was sort of the great tragedy of her life. So that's someone who left her behind. And then this whole thing about um, wish we could look at your pictures, all the places you've been. I don't think you will. You don't think you will. Somebody has it wrong on the web. You don't think you will, but you can see them again because you can see them through me, the brown eyes I got from you. Now I wish I could give them back to you. So I never talked about that publicly, what that was about, but it was about she couldn't, not only couldn't go see places anymore, she couldn't see. And I did get her brown eyes. My father had gray green eyes. And I got so much from her. And I think whatever I got a lot of great things from both my parents and a lot of bad things. But one of the great things I got from my mother was the ability to really love and to love a child, because she loved me and she loved her sons. So this is so I'm writing this on the plane, and it's becoming this tribute to her. And then as I was writing it, literally at some point, I don't know if it was on the plane or if it was later, I started thinking about the red thread. So, we were in the process of adopting, and one of our sort of adopting mentors was my sister-in-law's sister, who had adopted her beautiful girl, Mia, from China before us. And so she helped me with all kinds of things, but she's the one who told me about the red thread. And the red thread is a very famous sort of idea, like legend in China that, and I can quote it pretty well. When a baby's born, she's connected to everyone she'll ever know by an invisible red thread, and the thread can stretch or tangle, but it will never break. And I don't know, it just kind of hit me. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe there's a thread that's connecting my mother. And then it became about Molly too, and about this idea of the red thread. And then later, and then I just want to say one other thing about the lyrics. I remember when you told me if we run out of time, how happy you were just to know she'll be mine. And that was almost exactly what she said to me. She said, before I got on that plane, I may not get to meet her, but just remember how happy I was about this. Oh. So there's this idea suddenly in my mind of this whole thread. And then I realized as I was making this album that the album was kind of about red threads. And then it hit me, oh, duh, Lucy, call it the red thread. So that's kind of how it got written. I'm very, very, very proud of this song. And it's one of my absolute most requested songs. It's interesting that I get so many requests because it's so unbelievably personal. But sometimes the most personal songs, in my experience, are the most requested. It's like there's something that hits people about sort of the global kind of emotional experience, even if the details don't match their own lives. So that's what it's about. I mean, and that's how it got written.
We've heard that before, that, sometimes the more personal, the more universal it really is.
Which
Whereas
is
people
weird,
who try to speak in generalities and stuff, people aren't really connecting with it.
Well, no, I mean, the authenticity, I think, it gets lost.
Yeah.
Well, and emotional truth. Mm-hmm. I mean, period. Mm-hmm. Like in any form of art, I think emotional truth is really what people. I mean, yeah, people are looking to be entertained for sure, mm-hmm. but they're also looking for some kind of emotional truth that they can feel viscerally connected to. And I know that's how I feel when I listen to music. I'm looking for that. So, I guess if there's an emotional truth, the details don't matter so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say this album, we're only going to get to, feature like half the songs from it on today's show. But I will say the whole album is chock full of these songs. I mean, that's why I love this record so much. Is there is a
Thank
lot of
you.
emotion in this, and part of it, as you said, has to do with being around the time you were adopting your daughter, and some of it coming in the wake of 9/11, and so there's a lot going on. So I mean, it makes sense.
Right.
There's a lot of that emotion that's in this record, and I was thinking earlier this week with everything going on, I was like, I'm so glad we're talking about this record this week because I feel like these songs are for me, no matter what's going on in my life, are always kind of healing songs to me.
Thank you.
So,
Wow, that's really a wonderful compliment. Thank you.
and I would just say to folks out there, if you're liking what you're hearing, I highly recommend getting this record. All of Lucy's records are great. You can check them out at lucykaplansky.com. And also something that Tony was observing before he came on today was that it's there. One of the reasons it sounds so good is there isn't a lot of compression on the files. Tony, you were saying it's like there's a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah. I mean,
dynamics.
it's beautifully produced. I'll say that. Like it
Thank you.
sounds great. I was really admiring. You were talking about the personnel, and the interplay on the first song with it maybe sounded like a pedal steel, maybe, and
I know it did. It wasn't a pedal steel. I
yeah,
think it was
maybe
a
like
lap
a
steel.
so okay. And then on that last song as well, like there's a lot of space in the music, but these guitars are panned pretty hard left and pretty hard right. And so if you're not listening to this on headphones right now, it's like a whole nother dimension of the production that you could experience if you head on over to lucykaplansky.com.
Yeah, and I just want to say hats off to the producer, who's Ben Whitman, who also played drums, and to the guy, the incredible engineer who mixed it, which was Ben Wish, because they are just masters at both of those things. And that's part of why, yeah, thank you. I really love the way it sounds too. And it's partly largely because, or in large part, I'm trying to say, because of the way they recorded it, produced it, and mixed it.
Yeah, it sounds very organic. Like there's just a lot of I don't know. There's a lot of space in there too, which is something that we touch upon when we notice it. And like Ellen was saying, like even visually, when I look at the waveforms, there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. It's there's dynamic range, and that's the kind of stuff that, unfortunately, when you're listening, on streaming platforms or on YouTube, you don't get all that nuance. So I'm gonna just second what Ellen said. Get the album. Lucy probably send it directly to you. Probably sign it if they ask, right, Lucy?
This one, which is Red House, is purchasable from. You can go. There's a link on my website, but it's actually from Red House Records, which is part of Compass. If you come to my shows, I would be thrilled to sign it for you.
And
right.
Also, we should. This is a good time to mention that you actually have a new record that's about to come out next week. What?
Yes.
And it's only available from your website, both digitally and physical copies. Only available from lucykaplansky.com. So you'll want to get on that, folks, because I'm excited. I haven't heard it yet either. So
it won't be on Spotify or Pandora. It's really, really just like old school. It's just for sale. And it's only for sale through me, not Amazon or iTunes. So thank you, Ellen. I appreciate that.
Nice. Well, so you can pick that up at lucykaplansky.com starting next week. And,
you can pre-order it now, actually.
Oh, nice.
And it'll come to you the day it's released.
So really what you need to do is you need to go to lucykaplansky.com, pre-order the new album, order the Red Thread.
While you're at it.
And you can check out her tour dates.
Yes, because you want to see it live. You want to hear all these songs live now, too.
That's right. That's right. And well, I want to dig more into the songs because we have some others that we're going to try and get to today. And this one is Land of the Living. Is there anything you want to say about it before we dive in?
I don't know. I think maybe we'll do the same thing. I think maybe I'll talk about it after.
Okay.
And Molly just texted me, so while I'm listening, I'm going to also text her back.
All right. All right. Well, let's give it a listen. This is Lucy Kaplansky, Land of the Living, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Late afternoon back in New York town, waking up as the wheels touch down. Pick up my guitar and walk away. Wish I was going home to stay. Line of taxis, I wait my turn. Tire and asphalt, exhaust and fumes. Beside the road on a patch of ground, taxi drivers are kneeling down. Neath the concrete sky, I watch them pray, while the people of the world hurry on their way. I think they're praying for us all today, the stories that fell from the sky that day. This is the land of the living. This is the land that's mine. She still watches over Manhattan. She's still holding on to that torch for life. Back home, fire is still burning, I can see it in the air. Pictures of faces posted everywhere. They say hazel eyes, chestnut hair, mother of two, missing down there. I pass the firemen on duty tonight. Carpets of flowers and candlelight, and thank you in a child's scrawl taped to the 3rd Street firehouse wall. The shadows of the lost on the faces I see, brothers and strangers on this island of grief. There's death in the air, but there's life on this street. There's life on this street. This is the land of the living. This is the land that's mine. She still watches over Manhattan. She's still holding on to that torch for life. Then I got in the taxi, said Hudson Street, please. He started the meter and he looked at me. I glanced at his name on the back of his seat, and I looked out the window at the ghost-filled streets. I noticed cuts on his hand and his face, and I said, you're bleeding, are you okay? He said, I'm not so good, got beat up today, and I'm not one of them no matter what they say. I'm just worried about my family. My wife's in the house and she's scared to leave. I didn't know what to say. Didn't know what to say. Said a prayer for him anyway. This is the land of the living. This is the land that's mine. She still watches over Manhattan. She's still holding on to that torch for life. Holding on for life.
Lucy Kaplansky, Land of the Living, from her album The Red Thread, which we're revisiting today on Back Catalog. And I have to say, as I was listening to that today, especially out of all of these days, it's a song that's so clearly about 9/11, but it feels, I don't know, emotionally relevant right now after this week. And wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I think unfortunately it is still relevant, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So, okay, so this has a little bit of an interesting story. So I want to just try and get through the whole story. So the first image of the taxi drivers praying, that was at LaGuardia Airport. That actually happened a year or two before. I saw that coming home from a trip, and I thought that is a really amazing image. And I just wrote it down. I mean, like wrote the first few lines, had no idea what I was ever going to do with it. And it just sat there. And then I remember
Mm.
after 9/11, now just as you said, um, uh, I just forgot what I was going to say. As you said, we lived very near, about a mile north of 9/11, of the World Trade Center. So some of these images were that first night, on September 11th, we walked around the neighborhood, and but at any rate, so I didn't know how I was ever going to write anything after 9/11 happened, and didn't write anything. And then in November, I was in a hotel room in Portland, Oregon, between gigs, and I picked this verse up, the first verse, and I thought maybe they're praying for us. And that was like this aha, like, oh, maybe that's what this is about. Um, and then the rest of it, Rick and I really wrote together. So part of how that happened was shortly after that, I think a couple weeks after that, we were in Las Vegas, just for a little vacation. We liked Las Vegas. And around the New York casino, where there's a faux Statue of Liberty, there was this spontaneous sort of shrine slash memorial. People had left cards and flowers all around the Statue of Liberty. And I had, right, that's right. Wait a minute. I had the idea before that happened, something about the land of the living, because ironically, I heard Laura Bush say those words about something completely different on the radio. And I thought that is an interesting idea for this. And then Rick said, what about the Statue of Liberty is still standing and holding onto that torch for life? And that really nailed the song. And, the rest of it is kind of a description of what we saw, the photos of the missing and the smoke in the air. And I'm looking at the lyrics. And then, of course, the firehouse on 3rd Street, on West 3rd Street, right near our house, covered with cards from kids and flowers and candles. And the surviving firefighters were standing there mourning. So that was a real image. And then the last part of the song about the taxi driver who'd been beat up, that really happened also. It was a few nights later, because I remember it was Rosh Hashanah, and we were taking a cab uptown from a Rosh Hashanah dinner we'd been to, and the cab driver was bleeding. And we asked him what happened, and he said that he'd been beaten up and his wife was afraid to leave the house. And it's a weird thing. The song in some ways wrote itself. And I also remember I saw John Gorka before any of that happened, before any of this song really, really happened. He said, write down what you saw, which was really great advice. So that song happened, and it had pretty big impact on people who heard it. And, we didn't write it to make a statement. It just sort of got written. It was just like, this was our experience, and this is what we saw, and this is what we felt. And then people really responded, because I guess it touched how other people felt about, the whole horrible event.
Yeah, I think the line, I mean, there's so many great lines in the song, but the one that always feels like it sums it up is, there's death in the air, but life on the streets. And I feel like, you really get that in general in the song too, like this feeling of I don't know, the persistence of life, that even with all of this destruction, like people find a way and come out, and I don't know, that we're going to get through this somehow.
And that's what it was like in New York in the wake of it. I mean, people all came together. There was, it was a real community of people came together to comfort each other. And that's what it felt like.
Well, I will say from someone who, has no firsthand experience with New York at all, these types of songs and kind of recounting of the events and stuff like that are therapeutic, in the sense that, like, we grieve from afar often, like a lot of us are this week as well. But to be brought down to the human level, to that place where we can make sense of our feelings. It's like how you can't make sense of some of these things that seem like so much beyond it. But when it comes to a cab driver that you met, or what you're smelling in the air and things like that, I don't know. I feel like that kind of art is some of the most healing. And just hearing this, even this many years later, thinking about how like a lot of us who were witness to it on TV and other places are still working through it. So anyways, I just thought I'd point that out.
So I've described this song as the account of a witness, and that's really what it was. So there's this amazing song. This is talking about somebody else, but the president sang Amazing Grace that Joan Baez recorded on her last and final album. It's one of the most spectacular songs I've ever heard. And Zoe Mulford wrote it, and she said she just wanted to tell the story. This was after the Charleston church shooting, and when President Obama sang Amazing Grace at the sort of memorial, she just wanted to tell the story and just get out of the way. And she did, but there's also just unbelievable talent in doing that. But sometimes stories just need to be told.
Well, and I think that's the job of folk singers, right? I feel like that's it's part of the job description is to like document. The modern day troubadours, telling the news and making sure these stories don't get forgotten, because
I think that's true.
And artists in general, and I personally am a fan of stories that leave room for interpretation, right? You just it's you don't have to have a strong opinion one way or another, even for it to be impactful and for it to help people continue that conversation and to fill in the gaps themselves. So
yeah, for sure. And if anyone out there has any other comments, questions, feel free to throw them in there. I know a lot of folks just really enjoying the music and loving it. So we want to thank you for that, and continue to share any comments or questions, especially last minute questions for Lucy, as we dive into probably what will be our last song, most likely.
I guess so.
I know. We could spend a whole nother hour talking about this record. There's so much amazing stuff in there and so much meat, to sink your teeth into. But the last song that we're going to feature from the record, and I should just say again, there's some up-tempo stuff on here that's fun.
Right. I was just going to say, these are the tearjerkers.
I know, right?
It's not all tearjerkers.
Right. So, like, one of the songs we won't have time to get to today was Hole in My Head, which is a great Buddy Miller song, or is it Julie Miller song?
It's actually Julie Miller wrote it.
And it's like a fun, kind of sassy, kind of Americana rocker, and so they're not all and they're not all like sad either. So
no, they're not.
I just want to point that out, that there's a whole range of emotions on this record.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
It's worth listening to the whole thing, because there's a great flow to the tracks and how they go into each other, and so but this next song actually feels like a kind of perfect end cap to especially after following the last song we heard, Brooklyn Train. And this is the song, I believe, that finishes the record, right?
Yeah. Also about 9/11. This was very much Rick's lyric. He had the whole chorus written, this spectacular chorus. And then we kind of hashed out the rest of it together. And it was based, well, you know what? If we have time, let's listen to it. And then if we have time, I'll talk about that. It was based on a real subway ride we took. I'll just say that now. On September 13th, 2001, we took this subway ride that is in the song.
Perfect. All right, let's give it a listen. This is Lucy Kaplansky.
I'm sorry. September 13th. Right. Sorry. I'll be quiet now.
No problem. Lucy Kaplansky, Brooklyn Train, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I'm a rider of the city on this Brooklyn train, held by the crowd face to face. Freeze frames in time move through me, moments and lives I won't again see. Pack of kids gets on board, loud and non-stop rhythm of words and speed, the sound of the young, the sound of the city. Down below on iron veins, rolling waves of subway trains, rails of mercy cross the lives of men, saving the body of New York again. Asian men selling fire trucks and flags to the mix of voices of a doo-wop band. Sailors in whites dance and swing beneath the streets, part of everything. A family just arrived from JFK, a couple of boys, another on the way. A mother is watching, remembers her son, buys some fire trucks, gives each of them one. Down below on iron veins, rolling waves of subway trains, rails of mercy cross the lives of men, saving the body of New York again. And in all these others, it's myself I see, and the threads that connect these faces to me, and those who rode these rails before me, and the others who will ride this train after me. Williamsburg Bridge, sun, it's the train as it rises over the city again. Nobody speaks, everyone stares, remembering all that used to be there. And only the living know what loss means. We're riding together on this morning train. Down below on iron veins, rolling waves of subway trains, rails of mercy cross the lives of men, safe in the body of New York again, safe in the body of New York again.
Lucy Kaplansky with Brooklyn Train here on the Back Catalog Listening Party, which finishes off her 2004 album, The Red Thread, which we have been revisiting today on the show with Lucy. And that really is one, like, my favorite song on the record. And I think,
Really?
yeah, oh, it always has been. And I think it's because I mean, it documents, as you said, sort of like after 9/11, a subway ride. But I love just the snapshots of the different people. It's so colorful and vibrant. And I also love the hope that's in that song because, I mean, it talks about the thing, the buildings that used to be there, but there's all this life, again, it's that feeling. And then also where you talk about the train being the thread, especially after talking about the song, The Red Thread. It's so great to hear the train is almost the physical thread connecting all these people who aren't necessarily related, but connecting them all. And I don't know. I love the sense of connection that you feel even as an observer in the subway car.
Wow, thank you very
yeah,
much.
one of my
Can I say
favorites.
one thing? Do we have time for me to say one thing?
Oh, yeah.
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 Partly inspired by Walt Whitman's Crossing Brooklyn Ferry. I mean, there's some lines in there that are really, they're not exactly lifted from Crossing Brooklyn Ferry, but that's one of my favorite poems of all time, and I think Rick's too. And there was it amid all these others, the thread that connects these, and those who rode these rails before me, and the others who will ride this train after me. Like
Yeah.
this sense of things continuing, the world goes on, and just kind of what you just said, that there's hope. There's a hopeful sense that humanity continues.
And I also love the snapshots of the kids and and there's something that I, especially listening to it for me today right now as the parent of a young child, is I was like, how kids are, unless something directly impacts them, so blissfully ignorant of everything else, and they're just in that moment, playing with a fire truck and I think that's kind of where the hope is, right? The next generation of people coming up.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, and I will say that young people need to vote
yes,
in the
Agreed.
midterms because
Agreed.
that we have the power to change things if we all get out there and vote.
amen.
Just saying.
Yep, I completely agree. And folks chiming in, saying how much they're enjoying the music today. And I think we're all feeling some soul healing from this music today and conversation. And Gary, Connie, Joni, thank you so much for joining us today. And I do, again, want to make a mention that if you like the music you heard today, you can buy the record from lucykaplansky.com. You can also pre-order Lucy's new record, which I can't wait to hear. And also, she also has a Patreon too. So if you want to sort of get snippets of new songs and things you won't hear anywhere else, you can join her Patreon and support her music that way. And of course, we also have a Patreon, which is how we've been able to do this show for so many.
Yeah,
What,
that's how we've gotten
111
through the last 2 years.
That's
thanks
right.
to these folks.
What is this, the 111th episode, Tony? Or
Yeah.
something like that? Wow.
Yep.
That's incredible.
It is kind of incredible, and it's because you all keep coming back, and artists like Lucy are willing to spend an hour with us, going down memory lane, and we're so grateful. And thank you, Matt. And also, I think it's time to thank all our Patreon supporters: Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead Pick and Parlor 7, Lynn, Craig, Jake, Mary, and Many Tracks. Thank you so much, because you are the ones that keep this party going through good times and bad.
Yeah.
Having this every week is really, I mean, we say it every week, but we can't say it enough. But this is the best hour of every
Yeah,
week.
this is my weekly therapy.
is.
That reminds me that there's good in the world and it's worth fighting for.
Yeah.
So thank all of you who support independent music. Thank you, Lucy, so much for what you do and for
This
bringing
was a
it.
pleasure. I had so much fun. It was so interesting to talk about this stuff. Thank you for your incisive questions.
Well,
And thank you, everyone out there, for watching and listening.
yeah, this is so great. And again, if you're new to Lucy's music, check out all the records. They're all fabulous. I've been a fan for a long time before I
Thank
ever
you.
worked with her in any professional capacity. I was a big fan of hers. I think I first saw you in a little coffee house in a church basement in Connecticut when I was in college. So in
Really?
Stanford, in Stratford, maybe? Stratford?
Yeah. Yes.
Stamp-
Wow. You were there.
I might. Did you ever do
One of
the
like
Red
20
House?
people.
Yeah.
Lucy, were you ever part of the Red House like Barn Fest that they did?
Yeah. I think
I
think-
was.
I think
one
I
time.
actually got to see you there once.
I was.
were you
Definitely
was your
was.
yeah, Anthony, was your bluegrass band the High 48s playing that year?
Yeah, we performed there at the
Oh.
See?
same
Small
venue.
world.
Well, and speaking of albums, one more reminder: June 2nd, Last Days of Summer, Lucy's brand new album coming out next week, available exclusively at her website. I love this. She put her foot down. It's not going to be on these streaming platforms where you get like kind of the lo-fi version and no money goes to the artist. It's exclusively available either at her live performances, which you can find at her website, or on her website, lucykaplansky.com. That means
And
she gets all of the revenue,
I do.
and she
I
has
do.
she has then the physical copies there, so she could
Yeah.
write a little note to you. She could, and you get to interact with her directly. So definitely put that on your calendar.
Yeah, I am customer service. I am.
That's great. And also, everyone, have a great Memorial Day weekend. Alan, thank you for kicking off the weekend with us. And yeah, I have to say, this is the beginning of, after a long week, I'm excited for the weekend. And this music has kind of been the, like, I don't know, the palate cleanser, the, the thing I needed
Thank
to start over, start
It
fresh.
was lovely doing this with you. Lovely. Really.
All right. Well,
Well,
thanks
thank you so
again,
much.
Lucy, and thanks again to all of you out there for joining us. Music will get us through this. And until next week, have a great long weekend. We'll see you next time on the Back Catalog.